Hey guys, it's Tuesday, September 4th, and yesterday was Labor Day, so there was nothing I could do. Today I'm meeting with a lawyer. I'm meeting with a lawyer in about 10 minutes.
Alright, how can I help you today?
Okay, so I went before the Judge Provincial Court on the 17th of August. This is a copy of the transcript and the reasons for judgment. Maybe I'll just sit here for 5 minutes wait.
Sure.
Seems the smart way to do that, to just give you that first. Right?
Yep.
Instead of the whole run-up.
Do you know what your original charge was?
Originally, when they came to arrest me, it was criminal harassment.
Okay.
And then a few hours later, after I'd been in the holding cell in the downtown court, they came in for after about 3 hours and said that okay, I had been sleeping, so I was intimidated from the very beginning.
Okay.
They put me in cuffs
Right.
while I was in my pajamas.
Okay.
They wouldn't let me put on shoes. They held me out in front of the building to try to humiliate me in front of my neighbors. Drove me around for a lot longer than I know it takes to get me to that court. So then finally, after they took me to the court, I wouldn't answer any of their questions, so they put me in that tiny holding cell that's shaped like an emerald for like 3 hours.
Right. And
then the police officer came in to say, actually, no, Mr. Lefebvre, we're not going to be charging you with criminal harassment. It's going to be a something obstruction of a clergyman or something. Okay. Because what I do is I film my exchanges with Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. As an ex-member, an ex-20-plus year member of the organization, and really it's sort of a worldwide thing right now, where people who have not been able to communicate with one another, who've wanted to leave the religion, are able to learn things about the religion. So I started presenting some arguments, some insights, some facts about the organization that current members are never going to have shared with them through the meetings and through the regular study program. And so I started filming my exchanges.
I see,
Right, so it'd be like somebody who leaves the team because of discovering some things, coming back to talk to members of the team, but filming members of the team and the exchange. So an ex-Muslim, an ex-Scientologist, an ex-Mormon, an ex-whatever, going to film their discussions with current members. And this is the behavior that they resort to. Okay, there's a physical assault right there, there's a threatening statement right there, lies to the police, violation of privacy, assault, and just more lies.
When you say assault, they assaulted you? Or?
A punch in the stomach. I got a punch in the stomach from this guy. I got hit in the stomach from this guy. I got, this is one of Jehovah's Witnesses who, so when they don't like the way the conversation, this is in front of Best Buy, by the way, right on Granville and Robson, the public area, they don't have a permit to be there. I have as much of a right to talk to them about the religion as they do to set up. So he came, and basically, it'd be like, he's giving me his back, but then he's pushing into me. He's making physical contact, sort of pushing into me. This woman grabbed my recording device, she grabbed it right out of my hand, and this man, who's a coordinator in one of the congregations, basically grabbed my arm to try to pull a book out of it. While I went to take a book at Burrard SkyTrain, that you're invited to take. So I capture this footage of Jehovah's Witnesses behaving badly over 10 months, and every single time they call the police to talk about how fearful I make them, how uncomfortable I make them. One thing leads to another. Finally, the police decide that they're tired of responding and put me through that evening.
So how long was the whole span of time that you've been sort of engaging in this?
About 11 months.
11 months?
Yeah. And on one occasion, this police officer, who was undercover, and I have the full video of this. My YouTube channel, by the way, is XJDub, XJDUB.
XJDub?
Yeah, DUB. Yeah, which stands for XJW, ex Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's just a take on it. There's a bunch of other ones. So on one occasion, this undercover police officer failed to identify herself. I asked her for her badge number, asked her for her name, and she said, I'll give it to you in a minute, Stuart. What's going on today?
How did she know your name?
Because she had talked to, I guess, the Jehovah's Witnesses before coming to talk to me. So she failed to identify herself, and she said, well, Stuart, I'll give you my card when we're done. Okay, now tell me what's going on today. And I wouldn't answer her questions because I don't have to answer her questions.
Yeah.
Like the videos speak for themselves, which is why I document everything. This is snowballing into a freedom of speech issue. Okay. So she wouldn't give me her name and badge number, and then she put me in cuffs and detained me on Granville Street for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then when she let me go, I said, "You said you were going to give me a card, so I know your badge number and name, officer." And she said, "Oh, I'm all out. Sorry." So there's some real sort of police intimidation, police misconduct, dereliction of duty. Another police officer came to interview me at my door. He hadn't fully investigated. He was asking me some questions. So this is all. There are videos of all of this.
Right.
Of all of this. So they tried to sort of jam me into this I'm a danger situation when the two people who filed this complaint, Sarah Rochelle Traber and Michael Onwood, I don't even know who they are for sure. Because I've documented maybe 100 Jehovah's Witnesses in Vancouver since this started. I wouldn't be able to pick them out for sure. Right? So what I've done on my own is I've gone to the Privacy and Information Unit. And I got that acknowledgement letter for the that was the request, but I've got the letter here. So I got this in email a couple of days ago. So I'm going to have to wait 30 working days even to see the police report that landed me in jail. So how does a person end up in jail when they don't even have access to the police report that put them there in the first place? Right. So I've been doing all this myself. And I've been going to 2 mental health sessions where the doctors are really trying to agitate me. And I filmed the first session to protect myself. And that's a big deal because it's gotten almost 2,000 views in 2 weeks. And people are like, "Stuart, they're really trying to paint you as this mentally ill, unstable person when the videos show that I'm not unstable. I just know what I'm doing." Yeah. So when you know what you're doing and you scare somebody, you're mentally ill. When you know what you're doing and you scare somebody and they don't want to hear anymore, you get to go to jail and have your bail officer and your social worker that showed up out of nowhere to try to paint you as being mentally ill.
Has Crown Counsel given you anything yet?
No.
In terms of disclosure?
No.
Okay, so this...
Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox, so this transcript here, oh, that was your bail hearing. Okay, I got it. Do you have?
They called it a peace bond. They said that I was being held on a peace bond at one point, and then I was given conditions of release.
I was going to ask for that.
Yeah, you can see those conditions of release right here. Yeah.
You've been reporting to your bail supervisor?
Yes.
Keep doing that.
Yes. I'm going today to submit a letter of complaint regarding the doctor's behavior.
Right.
Those conditions are impossible to meet because Jehovah's Witnesses set up at SkyTrains all over the city 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. So just by going about my regular business trying to do things, I'm technically, I guess, violating those conditions. Like trying to get to the police office, the VPD office on Canby Street. There's the Broadway City Hall SkyTrain. Just going to the police to try to defend myself and file a report.
What about those 2 individuals, just Sarah Rochelle Traver or Michael Onwood?
I wouldn't be able to pick them out of a lineup of 100 Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
And they haven't made themselves known to me, and of course they weren't in the courtroom. So there's some dirty tricks being employed, Jim. Okay, like honestly.
I don't know. Not to attend in the 1500 block of Dobson. Whereabouts do you live?
I live a few blocks away from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
which is fine. I mean, I can shop and work and do stuff without going through there. It's just that I would stand in front of the Kingdom Hall talking to the people who would be watching the footage.
Right. So when you say some of these conditions are impossible for you to meet, which ones in particular?
That I not come within 100 meters of any literature cart kiosk, because they set up at SkyTrain stations all over the city, and I don't know if they're there until I turn corners and whatnot.
Right.
And indirect contact, I have indirect contact with Jehovah's Witnesses
Right.
all over the city. When I go to the
Right.
gym, when I shop, when I
Right.
do research, when I use the library, when I use the internet cafe, because they live and work in the area. So
Right.
technically, I'm having indirect contact just by minding my own business and trying to, adhere.
Well, contact is basically exchanging information, communicating.
Okay.
So right now we're in contact with each other because we're communicating.
Indirect would mean.
Indirect would mean you pass a message to Sean to me, and then I pass the message.
That's what I was thinking.
Sean to you.
Okay, so that was
but
not
if
so
you
bad.
see,
Yeah.
I mean, if you bump into each other like on the street, don't exchange any words or any glances or anything like that. That's not contact.
Okay.
So.
But the literature cards.
The
are set
literature
up
cards
all over the city.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think that. So right now, if you want to change those conditions, you have to get the consent of Crown Counsel, Mr. Fox's consent.
Okay.
So I would probably just get in touch with them and just tell them your situation. That being that, look, these kiosks are everywhere across the city, especially in the SkyTrain station. So if you want me to obey this condition, you're essentially telling me not to go to any SkyTrain stations in the whole city. So I find that to be very difficult for me to do. Can you maybe sort of shorten the number of meters required? Because 100 meters is quite a lot. So why don't you maybe change it to maybe 5 meters or maybe 10 meters, so that way it's possible for me to even use the SkyTrain?
Yeah. What's the minimum? Because I want it to be the minimum.
The minimum would just be whatever Mr. Fox considers would be a safe distance between you and.
And then how long could those be imposed?
This one, so these conditions can be imposed. Let's see, undertaking given to a judge, promise. So this is the conditions of your release, and they're valid until they're either changed or until your trial matter is concluded. So there's no set expiration date. It's basically whenever they're changed or whenever your trial matter is concluded, whichever comes first.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to get this changed, I think the quickest way would be to get Mr. Fox's consent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just tell him that, look...
Well, I want to get them dropped, period, because the charge is just an 810, fear of injury / damage by another person. And
Right.
I have no control over somebody that I
Right.
don't even talk to,
So the 810
being afraid of me.
Right, the 810 charge is more of a... We call that a peace bond. It's basically imposed in addition to the charges that you currently have. It's sort of...
In addition to.
Exactly. So
But I wasn't charged
well,
with. I was just arrested on.
It's not a criminal offense. It's more of a... It's more of an option you have within the criminal code. It's like a protection order. So 810 is basically a criminal charge-related protection order that they're imposing against you, which is sort of the basis of all these conditions.
Protection order.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
against the Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you want to change the conditions of that 810 order, then the best way would be to approach Mr. Fox and just tell him that just what you told me, that it's very hard for you to comply with. Because, I mean, Crown Counsel, they want to protect the alleged victims, but at the same time they want to impose conditions that you can actually reasonably fulfill.
But protect them from what?
From alleged harassment or whatever charges they've levied against you.
But they're not provable. They're not.
They
Jehovah's Witnesses set themselves up
right
in public places,
so I think that's probably
inviting a level of scrutiny,
Right.
considering their beliefs, and then when that scrutiny happens, all of a sudden they're fearful and run to the police.
You should bring that up to Mr. Fox. Probably not in the way which you mentioned. Probably more just telling Mr. Fox, well, they're essentially everywhere,
and because my freedom of speech, my freedom of peaceful protest, is being impacted. Right.
This is a very. I mean, this condition itself is really just several conditions all jammed into one.
Yeah.
So I would pick out the ones that you think are very hard for you to fulfill. So, for example, a church, 100 meters away from a church, I think that's pretty reasonable. It's something you can comply with. Kiosk information booth, that might be harder, because especially if it's in a SkyTrain station.
Right.
100 meters within the booth area, that's probably literally the whole SkyTrain station.
Okay.
So you probably want to bring that to Mr. Fox's attention. Facility or temporary display. Again, I mean, if they're in the SkyTrain station, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to not take the SkyTrain?
Okay.
That's a little bit, I think that's a bit unreasonable to impose on
Right.
you. Yeah. So I would like.
So what do I need to worry about the most for the 17th? Because they're having me attend this mental health program, and the doctor is really, he was threatening me. He was trying to bully me into consenting when consenting is when participating is consensual.
Right. So I mean, it requires you to consent. So if you don't consent, then you're not required to participate in any of these programs. But the minute you consent, you got to continue with them, because the minute you consent and you stop attending, that will be in breach of your condition. But if you don't,
I didn't give written consent.
Right. So if you don't,
they didn't put any form in front of me saying, "Stuart, are you willing to participate? Are you giving consent to participate in this mental health program?" He was just asking questions. He was being very vague.
Yeah. So this is actually many conditions jammed into one as well. There's one condition, that being you have to attend the court, and then the second being that after you attended, you have to consent to participating in a bunch of programs, and then there's a third option where once you've consented, you got to continue onwards with those programs. But the flip side is, if you don't consent, then they can't force you.
Could they be waiting until the 17th to present me with a written official consent form where I would agree to ongoing participation in a mental health program? Because I haven't been presented with that yet. And quite frankly, I was presented with a consent form to these conditions of release, having been in jail for 14 hours and not given an opportunity to defend myself. So I don't even, is there not a way for me to sort of just go rewind on this and say, wait a minute, you jammed this all through when you know I couldn't defend myself, when nobody was letting me speak for myself?
Right. I don't think that's what's going to happen on the 17th. The 17th, it looks like that's your first initial appearance. So basically your appearance after your bail hearing. And usually what happens on those hearings is the Crown gives you all the evidence they've compiled against you, and then you just set another date for you to appear. That future date would just be for you to set a date for trial. So it's very quick and fast. So I would be very surprised if they present you with some sort of a consent form on the 17th. I think the reason why...
Would you be surprised if they would pursue trial because of an 810 offense?
Well,
is that possible too?
They will probably they will likely pursue a trial on the basis of the harassment and what was the other one you said? Obstruction of a clergyman charge?
No, but the official charge. Okay, so this is a scheduling notice I got to appear. I wanted to appear before the judge to ask for an audio CD of my hearing. I went to the court, and all that appeared on that scheduling notice was this.
Oh, I see.
Here.
Right.
I'm going to go cancel that. Or do you think I should appear before the judge to ask for the audio CD?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Did cause fear or injury of another person contrary to...
So criminal harassment was dropped from the discussion a couple of hours after I was arrested.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Then the charge that's pending against you is not the obstruction or the criminal harassment. It's the 810 charge. So on that day, they will give you the evidence that they've compiled on the 810.
On the 810?
On the 810, and then I mean because they've asked you to appear to court, there's always the likelihood that they will pursue trial. But I mean, whether they will actually go to trial, of course, they will reassess down the road.
What's the maximum penalty a person faces for being convicted of an 810 charge?
810 charge. Let me see here. Do we have a criminal code by any chance?
We might have one in here.
Let me take a look.
Thanks, guys.
Family practice. I have to look it up online.
Sure.
And would you recommend that I go to the police and try to get reports generated regarding these assaults and violations of my rights? Or would that look a little too sort of litigious? Should I just let this play out?
You're actually doing the Crown's work, because Crown Counsel is supposed to give you all the evidence that they've compiled to lay the charges against you. So if you're asking the police for all this information, you're
No, I'm saying go to the police. I've never called the police in any of these incidents.
Are you asking them to give you like the evidence they've mustered against you, or?
No, this would just be me saying, all they're saying is that I make them afraid. They've done all of this to me.
Oh, I see. It's certainly within your rights to do so, and I mean the police, they're required to investigate a case before they pursue charges against you.
Really?
But at the same time, because it wouldn't surprise me if they took a look at all of this and tell you that, well, I'm sorry, but the file's now in Crown Counsel's hands, so there's really nothing for me to do.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so because I didn't file the reports at the time of these incidents, I've killed my chances of having any police action taken now, because they're just going to say, you know what, Mr. Lefebvre, the court's handling it?
There's a chance they may say that, but it's not guaranteed. But at the same time, I mean, if you find that
So hopefully the police are fully investigating then. So this will automatically come up anyway if
they're required to, because there's two checks and balances. First they investigate, and then they present the report to Crown Counsel. So Crown Counsel is basically another filter. They look at the actual report to see if criminal charges are warranted.
Okay.
If they're not warranted because they don't meet an evidentiary threshold, then the Crown would just dismiss the charges.
If there's readily available video evidence on YouTube of the incident in question, is it Crown Counsel's responsibility to watch it?
Are you talking about the 810 charge, or?
Yeah, I'm talking about this incident. I've had no interactions with Jehovah's Witnesses where I wasn't filming. I couldn't even tell you what happened on the 16th because I have no record of it.
Okay, certainly bring it to Crown Counsel's attention. The only risk is would they actually see it as you not violating the charge, or whether they might actually see it as proof that you were actually engaging in the...
Me contacting Mr.
So tell me a little bit more about this video that
there is no video of the 16th. That's the thing.
Okay.
There's about 75 official sort of activism videos where I do my protesting.
Right. And are any of these...
This July 16th, 2018 incident is nowhere in my archive. I couldn't tell you which one that is.
Right. Do you have any videos showing that you were interacting with
those
Sarah?
2 people?
Yeah, those 2 people.
I can't confirm who they are.
Okay.
See, so now I can't confirm who they are. I might have videos showing me interacting with them, but how do I go about confirming who they are? By having contact with Jehovah's Witnesses.
I will probably just wait for the 17th. By the 17th,
that's the whole thing, is just chill out until the 17th, basically, right?
Yeah, chill out, and they'll give you the evidence. By then, you'll probably hopefully have pictures of who this Sarah and Michael look like, and then maybe then you can look back at your video archives, and if you find something contrary.
Search them, right?
Okay. Put the names in, find out who they are.
Yeah, that's all.
I can't ask somebody else to ask for me though. That's indirect contact.
No, that'd be indirect contact.
So how do you go about? How do I go about finding out who they are?
The Crown will give you that information. They have to.
What would they say?
Well, most likely it'll be in the form of police statements. So
police statements.
Police statements. They'll give
which I've asked for too in the police report and that.
Right. So that you're you're doing the Crown's work. They're supposed to.
Good.
They're supposed to get that information for you. If they don't get you that information, then you request Mr. Fox to give you that information.
Okay.
It's your constitutional right.
The big thing for me right now is not giving this psychiatrist any more opportunities to try to paint this narrative that I'm mentally ill. So I see the bail officer.
Right.
I don't have to talk to the doctor. Participating is consensual. Like technically, I've attended this meeting with you. Yeah. I could sit here for half an hour and refuse to say anything. Would I still be following these conditions of release if I did that?
That's what I see. Condition 3 requiring you to do, just attend the program.
Right.
And if you consent.
Right.
Then participate in the programs.
Right.
Meaning if you don't consent.
But it's like a double-edged sword, because if I don't consent, I look like I'm uncooperative with the court. If I do consent, I give him the opportunity to ask impossible to answer questions.
There's that dilemma.
So he can make me upset.
There is that dilemma.
So he can have me go back and forth. So how do you deal with that dilemma? What do you recommend? Keep attending, but don't participate.
Well, generally, if you participate in the programs, it does show that you're making some effort to I guess reform yourself.
Right.
And
Okay.
they will produce a report to Crown Counsel. Down the road, if the report is
I don't need to reform myself. Well, that's the thing.
I
This whole
understand,
thing.
yeah.
This
Sorry.
whole thing is.
But it's just like clients I have, they engage in domestic assault. It's spur of the moment, wholly out of character.
Right.
But I always recommend them, even if you don't have anger management issues, go see a counselor just to accept responsibility of the issue. So that way you can avoid prolonged trial. You can avoid the stresses of a trial because it shows that you're making efforts to reform yourself.
I thought that, which is why I went to the 2 sessions and I let them ask their questions. But there's no way now. Like I'm submitting a formal complaint because he was threatening me with detainment for not consenting. And
right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean that.
And I can prove it.
You have the right to consent.
Cool.
Right. Let me see if there's a.
It's probably just all dying a slow death, and the bigger a fuss I make over it, the worse I'm going to make it. So if everybody does their job, it's eventually going to come out that they've done all this to me, and I've never called the police in the interest of documenting the behavior of Jehovah's Witnesses when confronted with facts about the organization and points that only ex-members can present to them.
This is very interesting. I can't find anywhere where information on
an
the. Yeah, I honestly, I think.
Is it a obviously it's a punishable offense, but is it a?
To be honest, make sure. I think they might have made a drafting error because I just looked at the. I mean, just like I said,
what does that mean?
810 is not an offense. 810 is just a provision within the criminal code that allows Crown Counsel or a police officer to lay information before a judge asking for an order to restrict your rights, basically a peace bond. It just gives them the rights to produce these conditions, but it's not a criminal charge. So I don't know.
So if I had known that at the time, I could have insisted on not consenting to these conditions of release. When she put that document in front of me, Mr. Lefebvre, are you going to consent to these conditions of release, or do you want to go back to your cell? I would have been able to say, Your Honor, this is just an 810 fear of injury. You can't even get this out of my face, Your Honor.
Well, the 810's there to produce the actual. My understanding is that in order for them to have an 810 report, there has to be another underlining. Did cause fear, injury, damage of another person. I think that's what they're going for. Probably just I think the actual charge is fear of injury or damage. That's the actual charge that they're pursuing against you, but it's not under 810. So they've this document's actually drafted incorrectly. So
what does that mean?
It means that they've got. They have an actual charge, but the actual section of the criminal code, they got that wrong. So I'll probably just ask Mr. Fox, well, I've looked at 810. I don't even know what the recourse is, because 810, to my understanding, just gives you the right to lay information. It's not an actual criminal charge. So, because if I want to know if this is a valid criminal charge, then there should be a range of punishment that I'm expected to get if I'm actually found guilty of this charge, and I don't see that here. So can you clarify which actual criminal charge I'm being charged under? You see my point?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll probably clarify that with him.
If you had been with me on the 17th of August and you were able to remember all of this at the time, you probably would have said, don't sign those conditions of release, Stuart, right?
Well, the conditions of
release.
This
is a drafting error. They have no business.
Well, it's a drafting error, but it's not enough to get them to not sign the actual release, because they can still make you impose the conditions on you, but what they did wrong here is the actual charge that they've levied against you. To be frank, I don't know what they're charging you, because 810 is not a criminal charge. It's just a right within the law for them to lay certain information against you. It's not to
lay certain information.
Yeah, so I mean, 810 allows them to impose these conditions on you, but 810 is not an actual criminal offense.
Could it be that they're hoping I fit the 810 criminal offense by breaching these conditions of release between the 17th of August and the 17th of September. So then Crown Counsel can say, Your Honor, we have reports of Mr. Lefebvre coming within 100 meters. We have reports of Mr. Lefebvre having indirect contact with such and such. So then the fear of injury...
I wouldn't put it that way. They don't draft these documents in hopes that you would actually breach them. They draft these
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Jim. That this might have happened because of how effective the activism is. And because of how police have come and talked to... I've embarrassed the police. I've embarrassed the police, Jim.
I'm pretty doubtful that
this. Yeah, well, it's happened a few times.
But I mean, if you feel that that's the case, then I would certainly bring that up to Mr. Fox's attention, because the whole...
But then I seem paranoid.
The whole purpose of them giving you conditions is that you can actually fulfill them. Otherwise, I mean, there's no point in them releasing you.
But there's an error here that I'm having to... Just so I can say it and get it straight in my mind, there's an error here, and that I was served with conditions of release for an 810 when an 810 isn't even a punishable offense.
Let's see what the judge says.
Yeah.
Well, the Crown Counsel believes that 810 is a criminal charge. Okay. Individual who I named the 810. He spoke to other members of the church. So where is it?
Can I book another appointment with another lawyer as soon as possible?
He's going to have to make a phone call to the same entity.
Do it that way. Oh, will they get back to you and that same
exactly.
process? That's cool. Okay. Would you recommend I try to save my pennies and visit a criminal lawyer?
Probably.
Come up with a couple thousand bucks? What's it going to take? What would I need to walk through the door and get half an hour of his time the way you've given it to me? Where somebody, no offense, has got like 30 years experience on you. You know,
they've actually got free consultations. So I think you can literally walk to any criminal lawyer.
Brian Mickelson, you ever hear of him?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of years.
Arve Findlay?
Arve Findlay does mostly constitutional, non-criminal cases.
That's kind of where this is going with my freedom of speech being
bring to his
impacted.
Otherwise, I think Mr. Mickelson will be good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can consult with both of them and they'll take a look and.
Mr. Arve, I'm not too sure, but
okay.
I mean, if Mr. Mickelson's like every other criminal lawyer, then usually their first 30 minutes is free.
Cool. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't be too much help.
No, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. So. No, that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. No, thanks a lot, Jim. No, that's fine. No, I learned something here. Yeah. So what is my primary directive right now?
Make sure you attend. Make sure you meet all your conditions. Get in touch with Mr. Fox if you think that.
Get in touch with Mr. Fox.
The 100 meters might be something you can't comply with.
Right.
And make sure you attend court on the 17th.
And that I don't understand why I've been hit with conditions of release for an 810 when, as far as I can tell, an 810 is.
It's.
Because you kind of got excited there for a second.
The 810 order is basically just a set of conditions they impose on you when you suspect that someone's in a situation where they have fear of injury or harm.
So enough reports piling up means that then somebody can face these conditions like this. Okay.
Yeah. It's also called a restraining order.
And what about the police coming right to my door and not identifying themselves and arresting me for criminal harassment where it wasn't a criminal harassment charge?
Did they give you a warrant or anything like that?
No.
Did they seize any evidence?
No.
It wouldn't be too much. I don't see how
they just came right in. Right. She put her hand on my arm and
you don't have to demonstrate it, but in terms of your criminal, unless they've actually seized evidence while doing so, you could potentially consider maybe a civil case against them.
Okay.
If you feel that you've been seriously.
And this officer that failed to identify herself and put me in cuffs, detaining me and questioning me without identifying herself?
Make a complaint to the police commissioner.
To the police commissioner?
Right, but in terms of your criminal case, if they didn't take any evidence, I don't see how you would. be effective down the road.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
They didn't take any evidence.
Yeah, they took evidence and they...
Without the warrant, like my computer, for instance, or something?
So they barge into your home without warrant, seize everything in your house, then make an argument.
No, obviously that'd be the first thing I'd be screaming blue murder.
Right.